So now let's get this set up. Oh, it's gonna make me sign in. Come on, man. Cool. Let's do this. And do this. Live now. All right. Cool. So mute that. All right. Cool. Then now it's stringing time. That's cool. Yep, we're good. All right, cool. Ta-da. Get this. All right. Cool. All right. So, what's up? Today, I got a few rackets I got to do. So one of them is this one right here, a Yonex, an old Yonex Vcore Si. And then another one that I'll do after this is one of my Yonex Percept 100Ds, because I just bought a new one, because that's the racket I'm going to be sticking with for a while. So I got to get that going and make sure that that is all dialed in. What's up, Ernest? Good morning, sir. How are you? Hopefully there's not too much of a delay or a lag with everything. I don't know what my computer thinks it's doing, so we shall go with that. All right. But Ernest, what's going on? How's the week? How has the weekend been so far? Even though it's for some just almost over, and for some it's going to continue until Monday. But how's it going, Ernest? All right. Let's see. Sunny G, hello. Nice. Thank you for stopping by. I don't think I've seen you here before, but thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Ernest, good. Glad to hear you're having a good weekend so far, Ernest. Always helps when that happens. All right. Cool. And to all the any plans for this Memorial Day weekend? Florina? I hope I said that right. Florina, if I did not, I apologize. But hello, how are you? Thanks for showing up. I appreciate that. But Ernest, for Memorial Day weekend, I don't got anything too big planned. Mainly it's just going to be probably just hanging around with the family. But today I wanted to get a jump on this stringing wise, because I needed to get this done for my friend, since he finally started playing tennis again, since his girlfriend kind of got him into it, because she was like, I want to be more active. And he's like, okay. So originally they started playing pickleball, which is pickleball. And then a little bit later on, he was like, well, if we're going to play pickleball, why don't we try tennis? And she was completely down for it. So he was like, hey man, I need you to restring one of our old rackets so that way I can actually have something I'm used to. It's like, I got you, bro. So that's where this Vcore comes in, and that's why I'm getting it done today. But this is one of the biggest things I got going on for Memorial Day myself. What about you? What about everyone else? Any big Memorial Day plans going on? Anything? Let me know. All right. I'm so curious, eager to learn on stream. Ernest, if you want to learn how to string, you can definitely do it. I know some guys that they technically learned everything that they know about stringing off of YouTube. And now of course they had to get their machine and learn the specifics of that machine in itself. But once you get like the basic principles of what you're doing, you can pretty much string on any machine because it's almost like rinse and repeat. You just have to know how that machine specifically wants you to like use it. But if you really want to learn, I would highly suggest YouTube, just because now I don't have anything specifically on it, but I know that there are a lot of people that do have videos you can watch and learn from, to where it's going to take you a while, especially the very first time you do it. So, and if you can get someone in person to help you along the way, that would honestly be best, just to make sure you get the racket mounted properly and everything set up. But besides that, you can learn pretty easily. But a mentor is always nice, just to make sure that you have everything going in the correct direction and you run the least amount of risk to actually crack the racket on the machine, because that's not fun, whether it's yours or if you get to the point where you feel comfortable doing other people's rackets. You don't ever want to crack it. Not good. Nice. I did try pickleball last year, but not my cup of tea. Yeah, it's not for everyone. Some people love it. Well, I will say a lot of people love it. Some people can't stand it. I'm one of those people. It's like, I enjoy the fact that it's getting a lot more people out and being active, and I think it does great for that. I just am not a fan when it kind of becomes like a territory war of pickleballers taking over tennis courts or kind of anything like that, to where it's like the sports can coexist peacefully enough, and like that's completely fine. Just stay on your courts. But if it's like a public place where there's pickleball lines on a tennis court, it's like, yeah, I understand that. It's just that in my eyes, and I think this might be some of the rules at some of the actual parks or places, that if someone is playing pickleball on the courts and then someone wants to come play tennis, I think that tennis should take over, and to where pickleball has to vacate the courts, or at least wait and try and find another open one, just because tennis technically was there first and they're using the tennis court. But that's just me. But I don't have any hatred for the sport at all. I'm just one of the ones that's like, yeah, it's there. It's fun. I'll play it every so often, especially if I have to like learn about any new products for it at work. But overall, I think it's done well for getting people out and about and just getting people to exercise. So you can't knock it for that. No. Lucas, is that a gamma progression? Yes, it is. This is the gamma progression 2. Now, that's what it says here on my little stand. I don't remember exactly which model, but I have the 6-point mounting system on it and the crank, which when I was getting my machine, the crank was a very, very big thing I wanted. I didn't really want a drop weight machine. That was my own personal preference. So crank, I was willing to shell out a little more money for, just because I was like, that's something I really do enjoy and would prefer. Cool. This is my first time stringing this racket, so if you see me count the mains and or the crosses, that's why. I haven't strung one of the I haven't strung this specific one before, so I want to make sure I'm getting it right with the string pattern that it has. What type of string machine do you recommend? What's your take on extended or plus rackets? And by the way, I'm kind of like you now, feeling collect. The racket collection, I think that's just almost an occupational hazard, whether you work in tennis or the more you start enjoying tennis, the more rackets that you play with, the more it's like, yes, I want multiple ones just because you like them for different reasons. But for me, I personally would say for stringing machine to recommend, I'm personally, especially if you're starting out, I really don't think it matters as much for you to just learn the basics on. So you could use any type of machine that you can get as long as it is taken care of, because that's the biggest thing. Some machines to where if they have been around for many years and they weren't taken care of, it can be hard to get consistent tension and everything on it. So I would just be careful of that. But I personally prefer crank machines over drop weights if I'm going to learn on it. Now, granted, I've never actually used a drop weight myself just because I started out learning on a crank machine, so I'm a little bit biased. But that's where I typically tend to see as best starting place. But you could probably use either one and then just adjust to the specific needs of your stringing machine itself as you continue to get better and grow. That was funny. Did you all see the string float in the air like that? But then after that, especially if later on you want to be stringing for either a lot more people or you want to do it and get the most consistent and accurate tension you can probably get, then that's when I'd say you'd want to start looking into an electronic string machine. But those things be expensive. So that's quite a ways down the way, especially if you're just starting out, Ernest. You don't want to do that. If you have the money and you want to do that right away, go for it. But I think you can learn everything just fine on a not nearly as expensive machine, because some of those electric ones are over $6,000, and that's, I gotta say, that's kind of a lot unless you're doing this professionally or as your main job. Kind of a lot just to have around. Now, if you can find a great deal, by all means, great deal is great deal. But I would say that might be a little bit harder to find. And then there was, what's your take on extended or plus length? Extended or plus length rackets are cool. Now, they do take quite a bit of time to get used to. I think the one company that has done it pretty well as of recently in the offerings that they have is Solenko with the whiteout and the blackout. I think that those play very nicely. Now, of course, it depends on how much length you want, with the whiteout having two different lengths, one being 27.5 and one being 28 inches. The 27.5, I think, would be the easiest one to start with if you're coming from, what I would assume you are, being the normal length racket. But besides that, it's a lot of just getting adjusted to the extra length. And then because you have that extra length, there is going to be a little bit more extra power that can come with the racket, as well as some will say a little bit extra spin too. But with it, if you can't get comfortable feeling, or you can't feel comfortable with the racket itself because of the extra length, then it may not be worth it. Definitely something to try if you haven't before, but it's just like, it's there. If you want to, great. If not, that's okay too. There's a reason that they typically tend to stick around 27 inches, and that's what they found works best. And then, yes, to your other part in question, 6-point mounting systems are kind of what most people will say are the good standard to get. I have a 6-point mounting system here. I personally learned on a 2-point mounting system. The 6.1 just helps keep the racket a little bit more stable, as well as just to helps kind of like, I want to say, and don't quote me on this one, because stringing machine, in terms of stringing machine theory, is not something I am as in-depthly versed in, but I can talk about a little, is that the 6-point mounting system, besides just making sure that the racket is a little bit more stable on the machine itself, it also helps to displace some of the actual, like, some of the strain on the racket, rather than it just being at the 2-point, rather than it just being a 2-point on the throat and the head. So it's just something a little bit nicer for the racket itself, as well as keeping the racket consistent on the machine, so you don't have to worry about it too much. All right, cool. And then the one thing I will say about 6-point mounting systems, though, is that because I started on a 2-point mounting system, I sometimes find them annoying, especially if the mounts themselves get in the way of the grommet holes. So you will have to go around that a little bit, but you can pretty easily get through it. So it's not the biggest. It's just a little nitpick I have, but that's just me. Mark sends his YouTube tennis. He said, yeah, 6-point string machine. Lucas, I have an electric 7, and if you know what to do, it's not too expensive. You can buy a used drop weight 6-point with fixed clamps for around 400, and then get a wide. Okay, so you got a drop weight, Lucas, and then you put the electric tension head on. Okay, yeah, that is an option as well. And that's where it's like, if you want to get to the electric pull, because I want to say the Wise tension head is constant pull, to where it's constantly pulling the string to help give a more accurate stringing, then you can do that completely fine. But if you want to go all electric, which some people do, then that's where you really start seeing the major money coming out, Ernest. But Lucas is right. You can adjust things here and there depending on what you find, what you need. It just depends on how much you want to actually customize the machine in order to get where you want it to be. What do you think about Pure Aero line? And they do have the Pure Aero Plus. Yeah, it's constant pull and it's extremely accurate. Nice. I haven't got to use a Wise tension head, but I've heard about it, and it's something I would like to use. I just have never got the chance to yet, because I don't think I know anyone personally that actually has one. And then Ernest, for the Pure Aero Plus, it does fine. Just think of your normal Pure Aero, but a little bit longer, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more spin. But the big thing with it is that you do have less maneuverability to it, just because it's a plus length racket. So I think personally that the Pure Aero does a little bit better just as its normal 27-inch version. But depending on play style and preference, the Pure Aero Plus can work, especially just because there was one guy I was helping one guy at the store that I work at, and he had been using 2 old Head Extreme microgels. And when he brought him in, he was like, I think it's time for a new racket. And I was like, okay, why? And then I looked at them, and they were both very severely cracked everywhere. It's like, yeah, it's probably time for a new racket. And so we went through a bunch of different demos, and he was like, see, everything feels similar, but it's just not what I want. I was like, okay. So finally, we did one final round of demos where we went as nearly spec for spec as much as we could to get him the same like feeling he was wanting. And weirdly enough, the Pure Aero Plus worked out, because even though it didn't have, it didn't have the same, it of course didn't have the same balance to it as what he was used to coming from the old Head Microgel Extreme. But with the extra plus length and the extra power and and everything he got from that, that's ultimately the one he ended up going with, because he's like, this one just felt the best compared to what I'm used to. I was like, huh, that one, it kind of surprised me, but after we did like the specs to spec, I was like, okay, this could work. So it's an interesting racket. I've known more people to probably, I'll say, switch away from it than to go to it myself, but it's there. It's been there for quite a while, so Bablat knows that there are people that it does help. So I think it's at least worth a demo. Not necessarily saying that it's the racket to switch to by any means, but trying it never hurts. All right. Yeah, it's constable. With a Wilson Biology for more accurate in like 7K. You shrink for others or just yourself? So yeah, the Biardos are really nice, because I have got to string on Wilson Biardos. Those, I can see why those things are like 6-7 grand. At the same time, though, if you're not stringing at that high of a level to where you're doing multiple different rackets, or stringing is not your main income source, I don't think many people need to get a Biardo. But Lucas, to your other question, I do mainly string for myself, especially like doing all of this. Doing this racket specifically, though, is for a friend of mine, because he's getting back into tennis since his girlfriend wants him to get going into it, because they go out and play every so often. So that's usually what I'm doing, is just my own rackets. But every so often I'll either string my friends if they have like one and they need it done, and they need it done semi quick and I'm close to them, or sometimes at my work I'll be a stringer just because they need extra help, and I am technically certified as a master racket technician, so I had to do stringing as part of my certification process. So I'll string here and there, but majority of the time I'm mainly just stringing my own rackets, just because I can, and I enjoy stringing. I very much do. It's just nice, easy, and you can pretty much figure out anything that's going on with it. And yeah, it's fun for me. Some people would get absolutely bored out of their minds just standing here doing the same repetitive task for hours and hours and hours and hours, but I don't mind it. Come on, string. There we go. Cool. There's that. I think the Aero Plus is a higher swing weight. And what string are you stringing? So I am stringing. This is Luxilon Element Soft Element Soft IR, or Element IR. Yeah, Element Soft IR Luxilon. And the reason I'm putting this string in here is because my friend wanted pink. Now, this string, majority of the time, you could probably see it as pink or red, but I asked him, like, hey, is this okay? He's like, yeah, that's fine. So I got him this string, and then he wanted me to put hot pink overgrip on it. So we got the Wilson Pro overgrips, and then as you can see, there's no base grip on this racket. So I got him the Head Hydrazorb Pro base grip, and then I'll put the Wilson overgrip on top of that to get him all set up to get ready to go next time he and the girlfriend are out and about playing. And yeah. And then I think that Pure Aero Plus does have a slightly higher swing weight, just because of the extra length. So it's a little different. and like I said, does take some getting used to. But once you figure it out, you can pretty easily adjust to it. It's just going to take you a little bit. Have to go through the little bit of embarrassment by whoever you're playing against, just because you're like, hey, I'm trying something new, and as long as they're good tennis people, they'll be like, yeah, we get it. We try new stuff too. So have fun, and then if you suck too bad, we'll maybe make jokes at you, tease you a little bit, but it's all in good fun. What? All right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That that is something else I have to do after I do these stringings, is that I have to, after stringing these, I have to go ahead and record a video of myself, not necessarily for YouTube, but this is for a callback I did because I auditioned to be in a musical here, and that'll be coming up in August. So I have to do that later today once I get done stringing these and everything else settled away, because I would like to know what part I'm going to get cast for in this musical. It's kind of important, so I can start preparing. But that is my other big thing for today, tomorrow, because I think I have to have it submitted by 2 p.m. tomorrow, and that's it. Let's see. Lucas, what string do I use on my personal setup? So, personal setup right now, I'm still kind of testing, but the one I have, the one I am testing right now is actually right next to me, which, let me grab that real quick. Personal setup right now is in this Yonex Percept 100D. I have Solinco Confidential in there. That is the 17 gauge of Confidential, because that is what Solinco sent to me to test. And I was like, okay, cool. But those are what I have going right now, and that is the tension I have it at. Just because, especially with Solinco's 17 gauge being a 1.20 millimeter, I wanted to go a little bit tighter, because other strings I have been using at 1.25, to me, they had been going dead a little bit too quickly. So I tightened it up this time to give me a little bit more life out of it. And luckily, I have not had tennis elbow or arm issues to where 56 with Confidential was not going to be absolutely killing me. But that's what I'm using right now. And then I just put the leather grip on yesterday to see how that goes with it, because I felt like I needed a little bit more help with the whip on the actual racket. So the leather grip, making it a little bit more headlight, seems to have helped, but I haven't fully been able to get how much. I haven't been able to fully get a read on it yet, just because it's still so new to me. Uh, that's a long. Is Beyonce? I'm assuming it's different, all the words, but Beyonce had one of the best music videos of all time. What leather grips are you using? The leather grip I'm using on my racket is the head leather grip. That's just the one. That's just one I had used one of my friends, and he had that on there. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So I just decided to get one of those for myself, and then actually I got two of them, one for each of my rackets. But those are the leather grips I'm using. I've also heard good things about the Turna leather grip, especially if you want a little bit, or last time I looked, they were a little bit cheaper of an option. So that one, so that may be one to look into as well. I've heard good things about it, but I'm using the head one. And then, come on, thank you, string. Get String being difficult. All right. Anyway. Let's see. By the way, what are your favorite strings? So, favorite strings, that I'd say would probably depend on the context. That would depend on the context of the question, Ernest, because there are some strings like I've done a video here on the channel that were my top 5 favorite multi-filament strings, which in there I had Wilson Sensation, I had Head Velocity, I had Technofiber X1 Biphase, I had Solinco. I'm blanking on the name, but I have a pack of it somewhere here. I think it's Solinco Out. No, it's Solinco's multi-filament. I want to say it's Outlast, but I think that's wrong. I think that's their red polyester. Yeah, I am wrong because Solinco Vanquish is the multi-filament. Solinco Outlast is the red polyester. So Vanquish was in that list, and then I don't necessarily remember the 5th one off the top of my head, but those were some of my favorite multi-filaments. And then if you're asking me about poly, I personally am a fan of Headlinks Tour. I've used that a couple of times over the years. That one's been fun for me. And I like to say I'm one of those ones that beat everyone to the bandwagon of Headlinks Tour because I was using it back in 20. When was I using it? It was back in 20. It was either 2019. I want to say it was either 2018 or 2019 is when I tried it for the first time and then started using it. And then kind of since then, it's become extremely popular with a lot more people. So I like to think that I was one of the ones to know about it first before it got its big name. But I like Link's Tour. I also do like Technofiber Ice Code, especially for a round poly. That one, I have felt that it plays very well, especially and has a little bit more feel than say like Bablat RPM Power, which I've used RPM Power and I still prefer Ice Code a little bit more. And that seems to be the general consensus as well with people at the store that I work at, just because there have been people that have used RPM Power and then I got them to try Ice Code. They have not looked back yet. So I'd say Ice Code probably takes over as one of my favorite round polyesters. And then I was actually surprised at the one that probably surprised me the most recently was Solinco's Mach 10. I was surprised at how that played, especially for it being a little bit of a softer poly and still being as powerful it was and having siding to it. Mach 10 I think does very well, and even though it is still a newer string, I think it's going to work well for quite a lot of people, especially if they want something that's a little bit easier on their arm, but it's still going to give them good access to spin, but spin is not the main focus for them. If they want more focus on spin, then of course they go with you should probably go with like Hyper G or Torbite, but Mach 10, it has its niche, and I think it does it very well. I think it's nice for people who may not know or just want a polyester that'll be a little bit softer, but still going to pack a lot of power and some nice spin to it as well. Chills, what's up, dude? Oh, let's see, Ernest. So far, I'm liking the Ytex Quadro Twist. It was strong on the Vocal Vostra V8, 285 gram at 45. Yeah, Quadro Twist felt nice. I'd say that's probably, out of all the Ytex strings I've played with, that's probably the one that I've liked the most, just because it played very nicely. But I haven't. I've tried. What have I tried? I've tried Ytex Quadro Twist. I've tried Square X Sharp, and I think it's called Try. It's Try something. It's their like bluish purple one, but Quadro Twist seemed to be the one that worked the best for me as well. That seems to be like, I'm pretty sure that's their flagship string from what Ivor has told me. And so that one, I'm not surprised because it does tend to work out very nicely for a lot of people. But it's a little bit harder to get than some of the other strings. And then Chills, how come I don't get notifications of your live streams? Chills, I do not know. Do you get maybe notifications aren't turned on for them? Potentially. I don't know. I'm not I don't know every single thing about live streaming yet. As you can tell, I am just not. I don't have as much camera equipment or as much equipment as some of these other streamers that also stream on like Twitch or anything or anywhere else to do that. But I don't know. Maybe YouTube has it to where live streams have a different notification bell when that will pop when I start one. That would be my guess. Not saying that is fact. But no, what's going on, Chills? How's the weekend going? Any big plans? Let me know. You found the best tension for the RF01 Pro. Either 55 main or cross, 52 main or cross, 52 main poly, 55 cross mold. Okay. Okay, Chills. What strings are we putting in there again? Remind me. So you got 55. So you got 52 main with the poly, 55 cross multi. Okay. Makes sense. But what are we getting put in there? Let's see. Adjust these. How long has that been? How long did that take? As I get used to the racket, I can hit it. What do you mean as you get used to the racket, you can hit it? All right. This. So now this one's done. Bang, best string upset for head speed is natural gut in the mains, 56, and razor code and crosses. That is Bang, that is an interesting setup. Natural gut in the mains and razor code in the crosses at 53. Which natural gut? Because I feel like that also plays a part in it too. Because I will say, not all natural guts are made the same. Because there are some that I'm just like, this is not. This may just be the stringer in me, but this one is not necessarily the best to string with. So in my opinion, there's almost no way that is as good to play with. But I may be wrong. VS Touch in black, Razor Code in white, 16 gauge. Yeah, okay. That makes sense to me. That sounds like a very good combination of a hybrid that would work. And especially for it being in a Speed Pro, being the 18x20, I can see how that would work out pretty well. Arrows for hitting those frames. Okay. And then Ernest, it would be nice if Ytex have more selection on gauge size of their strings. I would like to try the Square X Sharp. Yeah. That's one of the things that I've noticed with like Ytex and Toraline and some of the other like more Instagram or more niche string companies is that they have good string. They really do. It's just that they don't have as many gauge options just because it's a little bit harder to make them. And so that can sometimes hurt them because that is because other people want the thicker gauges, or they just don't want to be constantly rebuying string all the time. Chills, it's because of those frames are like Aaron, it's my first time hitting with those frames. Okay. Chills, you still didn't tell me what string you're using in it though. You said poly and multi, but you didn't tell me which ones. And the Speed MP actually don't think it'd matter much. Love it. Okay. So Speed MP over Speed Pro. Okay. I gotcha. And then getting more expensive though, 59. Yeah. Yeah. Natural gut at all is just expensive. Let's see. Chills. I use poly rough 16 gauge, main 52, and natural gut 15 cross 55. So yeah, chills. That's natural gut. That's not a multi-filament. That's completely different, my dude. Natural gut is like multi-filament on steroids. It's just that much more comfort, power, feel, and everything else. What are you talking about, Chills? Come on, man. But no, that's a cool and interesting setup you got there. So you got poly rough and natural gut. Never cut gut. I actually do know someone, which is a little bit funny, but he he strings his he strings his rackets with natural gut in the mains and the polyester on the crosses. And so sometimes what he'll do is yeah, he will break the polyester on the cross and he doesn't break the natural gut. So if he breaks the polyester, he'll try and be very, very careful. And then at some point he will attempt to just cut out the polyester strings, keep the natural gut in there, because he uses the tension at like low 40s, low 30s, and then he'll just try and restring it with just another half set of poly, so that way he doesn't have to cut out the natural gut. And I'm just like, that is that is a little frugal, but I can appreciate it. That's It's natural gut, but soon I'll go to multi, or maybe no multi on this RF, right? With that low tension. Yeah. Bang. He is one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. And so by him doing that, I was just when he was telling me that, I was like, wow. Okay. Especially with it being that low, and like, well, it's already going to feel like extremely low anyway, since that's what he puts it at. But just after that long, as long as it works for you, it works for you. But to me, I thought that would hurt the racket a little bit. But he says he hasn't noticed anything, so good for him. All right, and then natural gut, but yeah, Chills. If you wanted to try multi, you could. I don't necessarily think it's going to be. I think you'll definitely notice a big difference if you do. But besides that, eh. If you're used to natural gut, I don't know if you'll want to go back to multi. It's it's quite a drastic shift when you first do it. All right. So we got pink now. Yeah, only the poly are getting cut from the natural gut. The gut looks fine. Yeah. And that I always snap multi. See, I'm one of those people to where I will say I'm very lucky, or I'm just not as good as others, to where I really don't break string, whether it be poly or multi. So luckily with me, I've never had that problem of worrying about my strings snapping on me. It's always just a matter of I have to cut them out because I don't have the same life to them. I'm trying not to get tennis elbow or anything like that. But that's just me. Like, I snapped my first string, I would say, like, what was it? A few years ago, maybe like 3 or 4. I was helping to coach a tennis camp at Miami University over the summer for kids, and I snapped my first string. Of course, it was a multi-filament, and I felt so happy with myself. I was like, I finally did it. And then I took a picture of it because I was like, this may or may not ever happen again. And so far, I have not broken a string since, whether it be synthetic gut, multi-filament, polyester, or anything. And it's just like, all right, I need to commemorate this day in order to make this very special. Because my friend who was hitting with me when it happened, he heard the snap because he's used to actually playing with it, and he's like, oh, "You finally did it." And I heard it too. I was like, and I looked down the rack. I was like, "Yes, I finally did." So, bang, the frame I was using that officially broke it was uh, at the time I was demoing a Head Boom MP. So that was the frame I used that had the multi-filament in it that finally broke. But that's not the racket that I actually use. I actually use the Yonex Percept 100D now. It came with NRG is not bad. NRG is pretty good. I will say that, Chills. NRG is not bad. What we think, everyone? Racket 1 done. I think my friend's ready to go out. Take on his girlfriend. Show her what's up with tennis. What do we think? I think he's ready. NRG at 55. That's not bad at all. NRG, very nice string from Technofiber. Does well, especially for a multi-filament. I think a lot of people are starting to prefer NRG over biphase, but I haven't got to fully sit down and hit with both of them side by side to really tell for myself. I've used, I think, both of them at different times, but I haven't been able to try them together. Pink grip questionable. I'd go blue. See, I wasn't necessarily. For me, Bang, I was like, okay, he decided on pink, and he knew what color the racket was. I was like, all right, if you want pink, I can get you pink. Now, I think blue would look cool too. Blue and orange, they do tend to go well together, but he did not want that. He wanted pink. So I got him pink. He decided he wanted as close to pink strings as possible. And then I was like, how's this look? So I showed him another pack of the Luxlon that I had in another rack. He's like, that's fine. I was like, okay, cool. Because it was either that or give him pink synthetic gut. And I was like, no, he deserves a little bit better than pink synthetic gut. So we got the Luxlon, and then he's like, I want a hot pink grip. And I was like, all right, I can do that. He's like, nope, that's what I want. Nothing else. I was like, okay. So that pink it was. Let's see. Ernest, my preference string tension is between 45 and 47. Vocal Vulture V8 285, strung Quadro Twist 45. Prince Twist Power X100 strung with Diadem Solstice Power 17 gauge at 46. Vocal V Cell 10 300 gram with strung with Vocal V Square 47. Okay. Chills, how's the Twist Power do? Prince is one of the brands that Prince was actually the first racket brand that I ever actually got to try, but that was kind of like my first racket, but I never really got to play with any of like the new ones. So what do you think? What do you think about it? I'm curious because I just have not got to hit the Twist Power, but it looks really interesting. So let me know what you think. Especially with that low of a tension in it too. What's the difference? Have you strung E-Zone 2025? Fuse, yes, I have strung the new E-Zones for 2025, but can you tell me which version of the E-Zone you're asking about? Because the 98 and the 100 and even some of the other ones, that can sometimes change how you string it, but it just depends on the version. And then E-Zone 100. Okay. So yes, I have strung one of those. What's it? And then bang. What's the difference between Exalt and Excel? Okay. So Excel, the difference between those, in my opinion, is that Excel is a little bit softer. So think of Excel more of like a Technofiber X1 biphase or a Wilson NXT in terms of the comfort that you get with Excel. That's why it is a little bit easier on the arm than Exalt is, even though they're both Babolat multi-filaments. And then Exalt I believe it has an extra coating on it, and that extra coating is what's going to give it a little bit more of a crisper feel. Because some people I've talked to have said it felt stiff as a multi-filament, but when I was talking to the actual Babolat rep about it, he said it's a little more crisp, so it's a little bit more power focused, in his words. However, most people, if they were trying it, they were like, well, I would rather, I think, have the softer feel, because that's typically what multi-filaments are used for, and they would just rather go with that. So that's where I tend to personally prefer Excel over Exalt for quite a few different scenarios. But Exalt is there if you want to try it. I just haven't found it to work as well as, say, like Excel does normally. 56. Okay. What do I think is the best Yonex racket? Well, Fuse. I'm gonna probably have to say the one I'm stringing right now, but that's just because it's the best one for me. I'm not saying it's the best one overall, because that means you have to go through almost all of Yonex's catalog that they've ever made, and I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that, because there's probably quite a few I don't know exist, and like I have not hit with all of them. Like I've not hit with the Yonex Regna. I've seen it. I've held it. I've not hit with it. So there's a bunch of different stuff like that, to where best Yonex racket of all, hard question. Best Yonex racket for me is Yonex Percept 100D. But that, like I said, is just me, not anyone else, not anything else. Yeah, so we should be at 56. Yep, cool. Chills. I have a theory on the RF02. I think they'll make those 4 crosses in the middle closer, just like those 4 main strings that are close. Have that sweet spot, having that close pattern. They might, Chills. That's an interesting theory about having the crosses go closer like the mains do. So they may do that. I'm not entirely sure if they will, because I haven't heard from Wilson about what they plan to do with the new version of the RF02. But that'd be an interesting one to change up how it feels and the playability for it. And that, is there a feel difference between the Vcore and Percept? I do not like the Vcore paint job. So I personally felt a difference between the Vcore and the Percept, just because the Percept, to me, if I remember right, the Percept has a little bit of a different beam to it, not necessarily meaning shape. Of course, the shape is different, but I think it's more so the beam width. And the Percepts, especially if you're comparing like the Percept 97 to the Vcore 100 to the Vcore 98, then the Percept 97 is going to be a more thin beamed racket, so you'll have a little bit more feel, but it's not going to be as, I'll say, you may feel a little bit less stability out of the Percept 97, even though it has the extra static weight, just because the beam is a little bit different. So you'll get more feel compared to the Vcore, but you're probably not going to have as much power or spin as the Vcore, because the string pattern I'll think on the Vcore is also spaced out a little bit more to help with that. So it is a different feel. Most of the Yonex rackets from the big 3 lines, E-Zone, Percept, and Vcore, they all feel different, just because the beams are different widths at different places, and they're just designed to do different things. I think the Vcore has the most spacing out of any of the rackets, because it's the spin frame to help give you a little bit more access to spin and power. But besides that, I don't think it's necessarily. I think there is definitely a difference in feel between the two. So but the only way to get the most accurate answer to that question is just to test it for yourself to see what you think about it as well. How much does that stringing machine cost? So when I think when this stringing machine was still available, I don't know if it still is because it is many years old. I think this stringing machine was around like what was it? $1,100 because I got it brand new, and so it came with everything to set it up. It came with the instructions. The one thing I'm surprised it didn't come with is this starting clamp, which very important. So it didn't come with that, which I was surprised by, and I had to get that separately. But besides that, everything else, it came with quite a few packs of string as well, just so that way you could get going. But they were all Gamma string because, of course, they were. Gamma makes the machine. And yeah, that was, I want to say, about $1,000 or $1,100 for the machine itself. And then the funny thing is, I do have the stand for this, so I could stand this up and put this somewhere else. I just haven't set it up or put it together yet. I've had it for a while. I just never put it together. No real reason, just never did. One, two, yeah, I'm good. Cool. All right. This. MNDNA. I don't know what that stands for, but hello. I saw that you said hi. Ernest, so far Twist Power is a nice racket. It has the 16x18 string pattern, still getting adjusted to the Twist Power, and I do have a soft spot for first rackets of print. Yeah, I think a lot of people's first rackets do tend to be Prince, just because whether you're going to a place like Dunham's or Dick's or just Walmart or anywhere to get your first racket, and you're not wanting to spend too much, Prince has always kind of just been there, and it's more of a recognizable name for tennis too. Maybe not so much now because it's a little bit harder, at least here in the US, to find, but it's still one of those ones where it's like, yeah, Prince has been around for a long time and people just know about it for tennis. So I think it's a lot of people's first rackets, and I know there's a lot of people that still play with Prince rackets and swear by them, even though they're over 20 years old. And I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense. And then Chills. My favorite racket is K Factor 90. I like the color design, but those paint can rub off even breathing. I can rub it off. Well, come on, Wilson. Yeah. Some of the older Wilson rackets look so cool, especially with the paint colors to them. But now they're all kind of like one color, maybe two. Like, yeah, I get it. You were trying to be like, you wanted to make sure that people knew which racket was what when they were actually like seeing it. But I like some of the other colors. I think the Clash right now, the Clash V3, I think that looks really cool, just because I'm not usually a big fan of red overall. Just like, I'll wear red if I like got something that was free that was red, or like I got a really good deal on it. But the Clash, I will say, it looks very nice, in my opinion. I like the red, I like the black together. I wish they were doing that for some more of the rackets. I don't know if they are. I know the new Wilson racket that's coming out later this year, they did not do that, which I'm a little bit sad about, but it's okay. What just happened? There we go. That was weird. I think my string got caught in my crank for a second there. That was weird. All right, this. All right. Comparable machine today might be 1.5K to 2K then. I don't know if they're that much now. Are they? I honestly haven't looked at the string prices for one like this to be as comparable recently, just because mine still works and does fine for me. But hopefully they're not that much. But that's where getting like used or secondhand can come in and be very nice, just because it, as long as it's taken care of, it can do well for most people, especially just learning or getting into it for the first time. All right, cool. This. In there, cool. I have 2K Factor 9, but they're hung on the wall only. It is a collector's. Yeah, I can see that, Chills. And then, so Ernest Prince is still big in Japan. Good to know. I know it's still very big outside of the U.S. because I think it's more accessible outside of the U.S. But I didn't know exactly where it had like the most people like going for it or like still using it. I have not looked up that statistic. So every year on Federer's birthday, he releases a new racket, I'm guessing. Used tools are often a win. Use stuff in general if you know what to look for. Yeah. Buying tools from China. Uh, I don't know if they're gonna. No, they're not coming out with a new one for Roger's racket for Roger's birthday this year. I want to say. I think they're gonna give it at least the same cycle as the other ones, to where it's not going to be that long. How did we do that yesterday? So this, this. I'm trying a different knot that I learned yesterday, so I may be doing it wrong, and I may go back to the one I know, just because my guy who showed me is not here. But we shall see if that happens. Let's find out. Maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to remember here on the fly, so if I look stupid, please bear with me. I think that's it. And the good thing is, this is my racket, so I have plenty of options to mess around with it. If I was doing this for someone else, I would not be attempting this different knot because I'm not as confident in it yet. But on my own, I feel a little bit more confident being like, hey, if I mess that up, it's on my racket. It's not on anyone else's. If I am going to do someone else's racket, I'm going to make sure everything is spick, span, spot, diddly on perfect to the best of my ability. My racket, I give myself a little more leeway just because it's mine, and I luckily am in a position to where I can redo this if I need to. Or if for some reason the string isn't as secure, I can usually fix it pretty nicely, rather than having to pay for someone to string my racket, wait for it, and then go from there. It's like, no, I'm gonna just do it myself. Okay. Then go here. No, that doesn't look right. Here. No, that's definitely not right. Get up. Yeah, so I need to go this way. Do both. Yeah, yeah. Then do this. Pull this up now. Cool. We're starting to get the hang of it. All right, cool. There's that knot. Mains are done. All right, what did I miss? Sorry, I went quiet there. I was trying. I was concentrating. Good luck. Bon Cruel, maybe. I think that's what it says. Use tools are often a win. Use stuff in general if you know what to look for. Also, I've had some good luck buying tools from China. Exactly. Different rules for your own stuff. Yeah, you know, man. But yeah, so as long as you know what to look for, and I think that holds true with pretty much everything, not just like stringing machine equipment or tennis rackets in general, but just like anything. If you know what to look for to make sure that something is of quality, then buying used is completely fine because you already know you're getting what you want. You just have to make sure that it's not broke. Because if it's broke, that's different. But if it's just used and you're like, oh, that's completely fine, then of course, by all means, save that money. No, I am not one to pass up amazing deals when I see them. And then let's see. If you hybrid synthetic gut, what polystring that can give help synthetic gut a longer lasting snapback, or they don't snap back? I get when freshly strung, they will have that snapback. So poly, hold on. I hope that wasn't in your ears, but I was parched. But poly and synthetic gut, with those two together, yeah. When synthetic gut is first put in, like you said, it'll have the snapback. But I really don't think that there's going to be one that's going to let it keep as much snapback as you're probably wanting out of it forever. One to try though, I would say maybe either Yonex Polytour Pro or Yonex Polytour Fire, because those have the oil infused coating around them. So that does tend to help help whatever string you hybrid it with have a lot of snapback to it. So if you're wanting to try a synthetic gut and to give it a little bit more snapback, I'd probably start to look around there first, and then go and try something else. But that would be my take. What string pattern do you prefer? I like the 16-18 open string pattern. Not so Prince and Vocal Racket still use 16x18. So, not chills. Ernest, that answer has changed over the years. If you had asked me, probably when I was still playing in like high school, I would have said a 16x19. But a little bit after that, I was using an 18x20, and now I personally, since I'm using the Persip 100D, I'm using an 18x19 string pattern. I think this one works the best for me, just because I do tend to typically be a little bit more of a flat ball striker. So the 18x20 was very good at giving me the control I needed to just place the ball where I wanted it to go. However, there were times where it was a little bit too much, and I was like, okay, I'm not getting anything off of this racket, which not the racket's fault. Of course, that's on me. But besides that, the 18x19 to me just felt like a very good combination of the control that I was used to from the 18 by 20. But even though it's only one cross string less, I still felt like I had it good enough access to spin when I needed it, to where it was just a good overall switch for me. And I also do tend to prefer the 100 square inch head size. So the 100D just kind of fit a lot of the criteria as I needed it to when I was actually looking to choose my own racket as well. Seems about right from your opinion, Polytour Pro and Fire. What did you? What, Chills? Did you fact check me after I just said that, or did you? Or have you been looking into this for a while now, and you're just like, oh, I'll ask this dude, and then see if he's legit or something. You trying to fact check me, my man? Because you can go ahead and fact check me if I'm wrong. Tell me. But Polytour Pro and Polytour Fire seem to be two of the more friendly polyesters to use as a hybrid, just because of that extra coating on them, no matter what string you have with it. Cool. Ah. All right. So, anyone got anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? Whether it be about tennis, the channel, anything? What's going on? Anyone got any big Memorial Day plans? I know we've talked about a few of them already, but anyone got anything fun happening, or questions, comments, concerns? Because I could probably talk about something. You just have to like give me a second or two to figure something out. But if not, I don't know. What do we want to talk about, guys? Because I would assume most of the people watching this are probably dudes, just because that seems to be my audience. Mainly dominated by guys all over the world. But that's my guess. If I'm wrong, ladies, let me know. Let's see. Chills. I have a rough synthetic gut, but need a poly that can give that synthetic gut a snapback. I want to see what the synthetic gut is about. What's the we talked about this before, didn't we, Chills? Like in the last live stream, you were asking about that because you said you had a rough synthetic gut, and I was like, what in the world synthetic gut is rough? And I'm gonna ask that again because I don't remember the name of it. But what is the synthetic gut that you're testing and wanting to use on it? Bro, do you got what? Mountain Man, bro, do you gut badminton right? Mountain Man, if you mean if I string badminton rackets, when you say do I gut them, I personally have never strung a badminton racket because I don't know if this machine has a badminton attachment to it. I've only ever done tennis rackets, so I probably would not be the guy for that. But yeah, I know some stringing machines can do it, but I don't think this one does. I think this one is just strictly tennis. All right, and then What's the reason you use or like the 100D? Well, I sort of mentioned that already, Ernest, when I was talking about how it has the 100 square inch head size, the 18 by 19 pattern. Just because I used to play with an 18 by 20, I used to use the Head Speed Pros for a while, and I still have one of them. But this one was just a little bit of a better compromise, allowing me to get a little bit more access to topspin, just because it has that one less cross string compared to the 18 by 20. But I also just prefer a 100 square inch head size as well. I with spin and power I get from it, because so the racket can do a little bit more work, whereas I just have to control it. And those were kind of the big reasons I liked it. Yonex as well, in my opinion, has one of the best quality controls of any racket brand out there right now too, because almost every single time either almost every single time I've ever measured out a Yonex racket, or I have had to spec one, they have been exactly what Yonex have said. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a time where a Yonex racket came in differently on a spec machine than what it was actually intended to be. And I can appreciate that from Yonex, because that level of quality control is very nice to all the people who are wanting to use Yonex. And to me, that was something that was very cool of them to get correct, because not as many brands are able to say that they are that accurate. So that was something for me. Come on. This and this is okay. So that's normal. Then I need to go this way. And then go up. Come on. Yes. Okay. So here, pull that. All right. Cool. Not secured. Sweet. Into the trash bag. Does your tennis rackets have string tension for beginners, intermediate, and professionals? Mountain Man. Not specifically, because tension with it being a personal choice as to what the player prefers. You just put it at whatever they tell you to put at it. So it's not like that there's professionals all only and specifically use this tension, or beginners only and specifically use this tension. It's just whatever the players feel works best for them. Now that can change depending on what string that they're using, but overall it's mainly just whatever feels best to the player itself. Nothing too crazy, because like some players prefer higher tensions because they want more help with control from the string. Some players prefer lower tensions just because it's easier for them in order to get spin power, and it's a little bit easier on their arm. So it just depends. And then Ernest, yes, I have heard of bolt rackets. I saw that question in there. I just hadn't answered it yet. I have heard of bolt rackets. I've not got to hit with one, but there's one guy who comes into our store and he only uses bolt rackets specifically. He said it's one of the best rackets he's ever hit with, especially because I think he said he used to not be able to play tennis anymore because it was so jarring to his arm. But as soon as he started using a bolt racket, he didn't have that problem anymore. So he was able to pretty much just get out, start playing, and enjoy the game he loves so much more because he was actually able to play it again without having to worry about the actual racket being hard on his arm or anything. So I haven't got to try Bolt. I think it would be very interesting to try just because I know not too many people know it exists, but seems like it would do well because I think they're typically 100 square inch head sizes, and they're either 16 by 19 or 16 by 18 string patterns, I want to say. And one of the things that Bolt does too is they also will sell the grommets for the rackets too. So that way, if you get one and you like it, you want to make sure it just stays in good condition. You can buy the grommets, and then from what I've heard, as long as they send you the right pieces, you can pretty much put them in a little bit easier than some other companies' grommets. Because I have not put one in, but I've heard, I've talked to someone that has done it before, and they thought, yeah, overall it's pretty straightforward with that. Yes, I agree with you. Quality control for Yonex is spot on when it comes to specs. It would be if all right manufacturers spawn their rackets spec wise. It's called AG Rough Plus 15L. From holding, looking at that string, it looks awesome. You can feel its unique rough texture on that string. Okay. AG Rough Plus. Is AG the brand, Chills? Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna look this up right now. Peter Gutterman sales. 15L. Textured synthetic for extra tops. Okay. Interesting. All right. I'll check. I also have 5 sets of natural gut. It feels like holding gold just looking at it. And yeah. Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of am like that too. I have a few packs of natural gut sitting on a table right in front of me. Sometimes I just look at it while I'm over here stringing. I'm just like, man, that's a lot of money sitting right there. And luckily, I was not. I was given these packs because they were older. So the people were just like, well, we don't necessarily really want to use these as much just because they are old and they've been sitting for so long. I was like, well, if you don't want them, I'll take them. And they're like, okay, fine. So I was just like, you're just gonna give me natural gut? And I was like, I'll gladly take natural gut. So now I kind of use it as like bargaining tools or bargaining chips with people. I was like, hey, you wanna you want natural gut? They're like, I'd love to try it, but I don't want to pay for it. I was like, well, guess what? I just so happen to have a pack of it if you'd like to try it to see what you think. And that bargaining tool has worked out quite a few times just so that way I can actually get to try out a bunch of different things that normally I wouldn't be able to. Because overall, I think the natural gut I have, like they said, it was sitting for a while, so it may not be the best just because it's old, but it still does well. They just have to make sure they pre-stretch it and then be very careful with it to make sure it doesn't kink up on them and then ruin the string. But that's with any natural gut anyway. You don't want people just going about trying to string it like your normal sin gut or poly, because then you run the risk of it damaging it. And with it being as expensive as it is, you don't want to do that. That is not necessarily the best idea. You want to make sure that thing is all good to go because expensive. All right. It's on eBay. Cool. How'd you keep? How'd you hear about that synthetic gut, Chills? Were you just scrolling eBay one day and you just randomly came across it? You're just like, huh, $5? Yeah, I'll try it just to see. Is that how that happened, or did someone recommend that to you? Because I had never heard of it before. We've been talking about it. All right, cool. I was experimenting some natural gut where I put on half string and then retwist it. What? Huh. One half string in water and retwist it. Now, when you say retwist it, what do you mean by that? Like, how are you retwisting the natural gut if you put it in water? Like, are you just letting it? Are you letting it lose some of its normal characteristics, and then you're just quite literally just twisting it back together? Explain, please. That I haven't heard of that before. Yeah. Come on. Thank you. This. Ugh. Come on. Turn it. Okay. Well, time for the Pathfinder. This is probably one of the best tools that I've ever had for my string machine is this Pathfinder roll. It's so nice and very easy to use. Lock, boom. All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Let's see. I want to try some cheap string that are very quality, and that guy, Peter Guterman website is the best to buy strings. Because there's some very cheap natural gut that breaks easily, and by doing that, strengthens the natural gut. There are some cheap natural gut that are, and they're premium. Yeah, that makes sense. The what is it? Yeah, there are a few companies, natural guts. I'm just like, ugh, this. While technically this is considered natural gut, it is not up to the same quality as others. So the more you experiment with it, Chills, I'd be curious to know what your results are as you continue to experiment more and more with it. So you'll have to let me know how it goes once you get that fully set up and done. I really hope I didn't just hit the mic. I think I might have. Let me make sure I'm doing that right. Yeah. We're on that first cross. Cool. Alright, cool. So, we are almost done here. Trash bag. Yeah. There are definitely natural guts that I try to keep people away from. Just because I'm like, there are better options that are out there. And you do not need to be using one of the bad ones if you can avoid it. Sometimes people still want to do it just because they're like, oh, I've never tried it, let me just see. I'm like, are you sure? But if people want to try it, I'm not going to stop them. I'll almost always try, and if people are wanting to try natural gut, I'll try and have them use Babolat VS Touch, just because for me that's the one that I've seen work out the best for the most majority of people. And then there's a reason it's also probably the most commonly used natural gut on the professional tours, just because Babolat got it right with that, especially with that being the original natural gut. So it's a name for itself. It may be expensive, but there is technically good reason for that. Technically. All right. All right. So this and this now. Then we go here and come on. This and this. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm doing this right. Nope, I'm not. I need to do it the other way. Yeah. You do it this way. And then this goes up. That goes to the side. I think I might have done this one either wrong or backwards. Yeah, that one's a little bit different. Oh well. Like I said, I'm still learning the knot on this knot, so that's why it's on my racket and not someone else's. Because if it was on someone else's, that would not fly. I would have been a lot more like, no, I need to do this. All say, make sure everything's correct. But mine, I'm experimenting, trying, testing, which sometimes it's all you need to do. Ta-da. Yep, cool. And we're good. We should my racket ready to go. Just adjust it a little bit. Let's see. I'll probably purchase some more tennis gear at Midwest Rackets for Ernest. Awesome. Like I said, man, if you are going to purchase from Midwest, let me know. I do have an affiliate link to where if you would be so kind to use it, I would greatly appreciate it. It just helps out the channel and me, so that way we can get better, get bigger, have more fun. But if you would be willing to use it, great. I would appreciate it, and then just because it helps me out. But if not, I get it. I totally understand. Ooh. All right, I'm kind of excited for this. We'll see how this goes. Pink. Now I'm not putting on the pink grip. That's for my friend. That does not go on my racket. My racket, I'll put on some other overgrip, but I also need to change this out to a leather grip first, just like on this one. So I gotta put the leather grip on, and then I gotta see about what overgrip I want to put on it. But we are ready to go. Let's see what we think. Very nice, very pink. I think it does well with the racket. Overall, pink and green. Yeah. Let's see. So when it was like noodle, I put a heavy weight on it, much heavier, like 80 pounds. Do not break it all. I'm using cheap natural gut to do for test. Just the string, not on the rack. I was gonna say, did you just say you put it at 80 pounds? Heavy weight on it, much heavier, like 80 pounds. So you did not. Please tell me you did not pull tension on a racket with 80 pounds, even though it was natural gut. Chills. Please tell me that is not how I should be reading that. Because if it is, oh my, that is a lot. And let's see. Natural gut, do it for testing, just a string down the rack. Okay. How'd you put it at 80 pounds if it wasn't? Okay, it's the string itself. Okay, that's what I was getting. I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. I know you said it's the string, just the string now on the racket, but I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure. Okay, cool. Let's see. Do I have my leather grip with me? It's not here, but I do have it. So let me grab that, and then I'll be right back. Don't fall. There it is. All right. Cool. All right. I'm back. Now, do I put the leather grip on now, or do I wait and just use the normal base grip, because I have not officially used just a normal 4.5 grip size before? That's what this is, because I moved up from a 4 3/8. So do I put it on now, or do I leave it as is until I hit with it at least once just to see? What do we think? Because I already have this Percept 100D back here. This one has the leather grip on it, and I actually had to put a build-up sleeve on this to go from a 4 3/8 to a 4.5. Then I put the leather grip on. So should I just try normal 4.5 first, or just go from there? There are cheap natural gut that keep breaking at 10 to 55, but when the guy is soaked, rehydrated, and retwisted, it does not break at higher tensions. Interesting, Chills. Which natural guts have you found that do that? If you soak them, retwist them, which ones have you found work better like that? Especially the cheaper ones, because my guess is you might be thinking like Luxolon, not necessarily Luxolons, but like Vocal's natural gut, maybe, because that one does tend to be a little bit cheaper than most of the others, or even what else? Like Clip natural gut, maybe Gosen. But which one did you find is a little bit better if you water it, retwist it, and then reuse it instead of it breaking at 55? Ah, I hit it. No, I just got this. I don't want this one to get hurt. Racket. Wholesale natural gut. Is that a website or is that a specific brand itself? Or are you just saying that just most natural gut that you can buy? Yeah, website. Okay. Hmm, cool. Where do you get where do you get your natural gut from, Chills? Do you have a secret website that I need to know about that can find me cheap natural gut? Chills. Do you? Maybe. Maybe. Ethan from there, yeah, everything I know is rude. Anyway, that's okay. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out one of these days. Anyway, Ethan, what do I think of the Wilson Clash team? Do they have a Clash team? I know they have the Clash 100, the 100 Pro, the 100L, and I think the 100 UL, but I don't know about the Clash 100. I don't know about the Wilson Clash team. Let me look that one up. Let's see. Wilson Clash team. What is it? 9.9, 103. Huh. There are three versions of natural gut that are low, medium, and okay. So Ethan, with the Wilson Clash 100, with the Wilson Clash team, just from my quick research, essentially just searching it up on Google and being like, oh, okay, what is this thing? With it being a 103 head size, it's definitely going to be a little bit more powerful than the normal 100s from the Clashes, and I think the weight said it was 9.9 ounces unstrung, so about 10.5 ounces with a string inside of it. I don't remember the gram conversion off the top of my head, but 10.1 is about 285 unstrung, so you're probably around like 280 grams, so about 295 maybe roughly after the string is in it, 295 to but between the 295 to 300 gram range. So depending on who's using it, it can do fine. I think it just from looking at it, it looks to be more of a beginner to intermediate level racket, especially with it being a Clash. Those do tend to be very easy on the arm, and they do tend to be just very comfortable. But as you continue to play higher and higher levels of tennis, higher and higher levels of players, that's when you can sometimes find that the Clash gets a little bit overpowered because it with how flexible it doesn't maintain its integrity, or it it flexes too much to where your opponent, if they hit a much harder ball at you, it's harder for the Clash to be able to use that in order to for you to actually just hit a shot that you want to, and it's a little bit easier for that to just kind of it's a little bit easier for your opponent to overpower you with the Clash. Now with the 103, you do get a little bit more extra reach rather than it just being the standard 100 head size or going as far as the 108. So it's kind of like right in that sweet spot for getting a little bit more of an intermediate racket, beginner to intermediate racket. But besides that, I would say overall, it's probably just going to focus on being arm friendly and then have a little bit more access to spin and power. But as a long term racket, you probably use that as like starting now. I don't know what skill level you are. You could use that, and then but eventually you'd probably want to move into something like either maybe the Clash 100, the Clash 100 Pro if you like the Clash feel, or then move into something else that's a little bit heavier in order to give you a better chance against all the players that are hitting the ball a lot harder back at you. That would be my take on it, just from the very quick glance I took on it. Let's see. Let's see. Premium is very similar, like Wilson Championship. The low one can break easily if not carefully handled. The Wilson Championship is like $50, while these natural guys like 30. Is that 30? Chills, is that 30 in terms of the top price for the one that is like Wilson Championship, or is it 30 being the cheap price, the one that's going to break on you as much? Ethan, okay, thanks. I'm a beginner. I have the Prince Pro, and I'm short and skinny, so TI, not it. Okay, yeah. So nah, Ethan, you should, depending on how much you want to spend. I don't. If you're just starting out, if you're just starting out and how much you want to spend, I really don't think you need to go above like. You probably don't need to go above like 160 in terms of $160 in terms of price for the full racket. You could probably get a good beginner racket, whether it be brand new or used, and it's just an older version of a racket for under that price. Just and that way it would probably work a little bit easier for you rather than just spending and shelling out multiple over $250 or $300 just to get a brand new racket that you're just like, you don't even know why this is worth $300 yet, just because you're so new to the game. And then as you continue to play more and more, you play for a few years, then it's like, okay, maybe I go up and get that more expensive racket now because you've changed your play style as a player, you've developed some new strokes, you just need a heavier racket because you got stronger, you got a little bit bigger, or a bunch of other factors that can go into it. But probably around the 160 price range, maybe even a little below that. If you can find a pretty good deal, then I'd say that's probably right around where you'd want to be. And then you just want to make sure that for the weight of it, you get something that is as comfortable and easy to hold onto for you that you feel comfortable swinging with for the entire 2 hour thing. You don't want to get something that feels extremely heavy as soon as you pick it up, because if you do that, then you just tire yourself out within like the first half an hour of playing, and you still have to play a full match. It's not going to be fun. I've done that before, and my arm was killing me. My arm was tired, and I did not end up winning that match because it was not good. So just be mindful about that. But yeah, if you want to get the Clash team, I don't think it would necessarily be a problem. Just know that it's probably going to be more of a starting point rather than what you'll use definitively for your entire tennis career, unless you just prefer it and that's what you want to do. And then Chills. So far, only the poly is the one that is breaking, like I said. Yeah, okay. Nice. If you're breaking poly and not the natural gut, you're only one of two people. The Wilson Championship and then the premium natural gut from wholesale when comparing them both. Okay, so $30 for the natural gut pack, comparable to the Wilson Championship. That's usually more than that. Why you gotta keep this website a secret, Chills? Now I want to know. What are you hiding from me? But oh well, it's cool. I get it. All right. Is it this natural gut, Chills? The Wilson natural gut? Because if you're saying champions, my mind is saying you're going to Champions Choice, which is the hybrid pack with ALU Power Rough. But if you're using this is just the natural gut. So that's where I'm like, which one are you actually talking about? Because I would feel like that would change the price a little bit, since you have either two different strings in there or just all natural gut. Ethan, do I own a shop? No, I do not own a tennis shop. I just work at one. So I've been working at one for the past 7+ years, almost 8. No, I think I might have actually passed 8 years now. So I've been there for about that long. And that's where I've just kind of like been talking with people about different rackets, recommending different rackets, having people demo them, and just talking about people. I then got certified as a master racket technician, which essentially is a fancy way of saying I took a test in the US about stringing and the different materials and balance and how a racket can be balanced and worked with. And I think they said I'm one of like 560 or 650 MRTs, master racket technicians in the world, just that have the certification. So that's kind of like my things to be like, yes, this is what I do. This is why I know what is going on, and that's just kind of my proof of my proof to be like, yeah, this is my track record. This is what I've done. Let's go from there. Ethan, what is good for rackets beginners? What do you mean by what is good for rackets beginners? Just like what rackets are good for beginners, or like what to look for in beginner rackets? Which question are you wanting me to answer there? Because thanks, man. I appreciate the sub. But which question are you asking about? Number one, so which rackets are good for beginners? Just to make sure, so I get the right answer going for you. Yep. Okay. I'm going to assume that means yes. Okay. So with a beginner racket, biggest thing to look for typically is weight, material used, and head size. String pattern will come into effect, but usually most beginner rackets, they're all pretty similar string patterns. It's either a 16 by 19 or a 16 by 18. So that you can pretty much be like, if you're using a beginner racket, then it's like, it's most likely going to be one of those two. So if you're looking to get your first adult racket, then like you mentioned earlier, the Clash team can do fine, but there are some others that it just depends on how much you're wanting to spend. I usually, if it's someone's first time, I try and typically help them lower go to a lower price point in terms of what they may actually want to get for their first beginner racket. Just because it's like, if you're just starting out into the game, you don't need to spend over $250 or $300 on a racket. You can if you want to, and that's great and fine, but overall, I really don't think you need to. And then it is going to just be a little bit different from there, because I always try and get people to demo rackets first if they have the option or ability to, just so that way people can actually make sure that it works for them. It's not going to cause them any arm issues or anything. But if you're just starting out, and that's not necessarily the biggest issue, just because you're still trying to learn the game, then I usually try and get someone either into a old racket that's on sale. Like, one of my favorites to give people, especially if they're just coming into the game, depending on their skill level, is either the old Head Speed MP or Head Speed S XTC, which is a few generations older, but they still make it brand new, and it's usually on sale at like 109 or 119 brand new. And that was essentially just the mainline head speed racket at the time. It's just old now, so they just reduced the price. Kind of the same thing for the old Head Radical MP and Head Radical S. Those two I really like, especially because the Radical S is a slightly bigger head size, being 102 square inches, just to help give you a little bit more help with spin, give you a little bit more help with power, rather than you having to generate a lot more of that on your own. Whereas that's kind of the Head Radical MP being a 98 head size. So for a beginner, Ethan, you would probably want to look more towards at least a 100 square inch head size and above. I probably wouldn't go farther than a 105 or a 107, just because at that point, it's going to be a lot harder to eventually switch to a smaller head size if you want to continue playing more and more as you get better and as you get stronger. And I would probably stay around, depending on the weight that you prefer. If you get the Clash team, that's going to be about 9.9 ounces unstrung, 10.5 strung. So that's using ounces, or about 295, 298 grams strung if you use grams off the top of my head, I think. And then that's going to be a good introduction weight. It's not going to be the heaviest thing in the world. It's not going to be the lightest thing in the world. It's just a good way to get going and get seeing what's going on. 290, thank you. So 290 gram, and then easy way to see what's going on with it. And then you could pretty much just use that as your starting point. I would say if you are going to do it this way, then one thing I would suggest is to get like a notebook or a place to write down something, to where you can actually just make sure it's like, oh, okay, this is what I like when I'm playing with it, and this is what I don't like, and keep that in your bag or keep that with you every time you go to play with your racket. So that way you can have an accurate notes list of what you should be using, or not should. I don't like the word should. I don't like saying that. But you have an accurate list of what you have said you liked from playing, whether it be when you're having an off day, when you're having a great day. And then you can use that as your starting point to look towards a new racket in the future. As you get bigger, stronger, you develop a different kind of play style. Maybe you've taken a few lessons here and there, and then you can just kind of go from there. So for beginner rackets, just to recap, stay around 100 square inch head sizes, maybe a little bit bigger. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't go past 107, and 107 is still pushing it. I'd probably look more around like the 103 you were looking at, or a 100, and then right around that right around the 290 gram, maybe 295 grams strung. Because if you look at the racket itself, the racket is typically going to list the unstrung weight on the actual racket itself. So if the Clash team says 9.9 ounces, or was that, it's going to be 275 grams on the racket, that's going to be before string is put into it. So by putting the string into it, you want to get around about 290 grams to about the 300 gram range, or the 10 point, or right around 10.6 ounces to about 10.5, 10.4, just to start with, and go from there. And this is just tailored to you specifically, Ethan, just because I'm going based off the assumption you are a dude from your name. If you were not, then this may be a slightly different weight comparison that you may need, but the other specs like the head size is pretty much going to be the same for most players just starting out into the sport. And then it's just whatever feels most comfortable to you as you're actually holding it and playing with the racket itself. Besides that, it's on you to just play with it, see what you think, make the decision, and then we can go from there based off of what you would want in order to go to your next racket after you've been playing for a while. Let's see. Chills, I usually do this instead for high school class. If they're a freshman, they go 9 ounce. Junior, they go 10 ounce. Each class, you add 1 ounce, so you get that 12 ounce for this. Chills, you're having freshmen use junior rackets? Or are you saying that they're using like 9.9 ounce adult rackets? Because if they're freshmen, they probably don't need to be using junior rackets, depending on, just because they probably have the height to be able to be using the adult racket, and that can, as long as they feel comfortable with the full 27-inch length, they could probably just use a really light version of that. But sophomores using a 10 ounce. I'm assuming these are all strung or unstrung. If it's strung, okay, 11 ounce for juniors. I can see it. It just depends on what the person prefers and what you prefer and when you're playing with it. But we'll see. You never know exactly what you're going to find that you like until you actually hit with it. Ernest, the Vocal and Prince I use are lightweight rackets. The Vostra V8 285 gram and Twist Power 290 gram. Very nice. Junior, I meant 11. Let's. Freshman, they go 9 ounce. Junior, they go. Oh, okay. That's what you meant. I was like, wait a minute. You're having freshmen use. It's okay. I feel like most people forget about sophomores. They're just kind of like there. Even when I was a sophomore, it's like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm not the freshman anymore, but I'm still just like kind of here. I'm not an upperclassman. I'm just like the slightly better than freshman level of sophomore. It's like, yeah, I can learn how to drive in this year, at least here in the US, but besides that, it's like, sophomores just kind of being there. It's like, okay. Let's see. Ethan said hi. What's Ethan? We know you're here. What's up, man? All right, cool. Ethan, did I answer the question? Each ounces, they're great. Interesting. How we feeling, Ethan? Did that help, or did I just spend the time? Okay, cool. Glad it helped, and definitely let me know which one you end up choosing. I think you'll find one. I think you'll find one that's gonna work. That's gonna work well for you. And yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think about it as you continue to play, as you continue to get better. And did you read my natural gut comment? Hold on, let me find it again. Chills. Wholesale natural gut is its own store. Wholesale compared to the Wilson natural gut. Ethan, the other question I got: how old are you, my man? I'm curious now. If you're looking at the Clash team, what is it called? Chills. It's wholesale. Wholesale natural gut. Not images. I want new business. Chills. Is it this website that says ngstring.com, naturalgutstring.com? Is that the one that you were getting it from? 14. Okay. Nice, Ethan. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay. I'll check it out, Chills. Cuz I've never seen this website before, but I'll look into that and the synthetic gut. See what's going on with it. Cool. Cool. All right then, all. I got my 2 rackets done. So, and I've been going at this for 2 hours, which longer stream than normal today. And that's pretty cool. That's okay. As long as everyone had fun, enjoyed it, got to talk with you all, not bad at all. But probably going to end it here. I got, like I said earlier, other stuff to do. I have to record my callbacks for an audition for the musical I'm going to be in a few months. So, wish me luck on that. But besides that, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And if you are celebrating Memorial Day, have a great Memorial Day. If you got off work, great. If you don't have to go to school, Ethan, I'm looking at you. Even better. So, with that being said, as always, take care.